Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm be showing you the top 10 most fantastic Ark Tames. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So in number 10 I wanted to put the Raasclark, as I find this really does add a lot to the game that is Ark Survival Evolved, from the fact that it can pick up just such a wealth of creatures to its general travelling abilities. Also, considering it spawns on the island, it is accessible to pretty much everyone out there apart from mobile players, and I'm sorry, your version of Ark is a little bit depressing in my opinion from the creature side of things. But to console players out there, and just to PC players of course, the Raasclark is a creature which you'll find, a lot of people are using these days. They are just so useful for general travel and travelling around with creatures too, and the fact that they can deal a heck of a lot of damage really does emphasize these creatures as being great ones, and they really are fantastic. They add a lot to the game and they're very deserving of this spot on the list. Coming in next we have got the Reaper, and this might just be nostalgia playing on me here, but I always think of this as a sort of a higher creature in regards to just such a fantastic creature than the Raasclark. I find it blends into its map much more effectively, and it really did innovate for the time. Considering also the Raasclark's tame method wouldn't have happened without the Reaper being there in the first place, as it pretty much just is a rehashing. This really does need to be here as well, as this has inspired further creatures along the way, and the Raasclark simply hasn't. And I know it hasn't had a lot of time for just further creature development to come from it, as this is a 2017 creature after all, and that's a 2023 creature as far as I'm aware. I don't think it came out this year, I think it was last year, unless my brain deceives me. But yeah, I just feel like this has done a lot more for the Ark game, and I kind of prefer it as a creature. Its aesthetics are nicer. I like its abilities and its damage, although it doesn't really have too many abilities. The fact that it can go underground and can slow down creatures with its tail attack, deal a heck of a lot of damage, and just be really interesting to tame and interact with, makes it a fantastic creature for me. Next, I really want to put the Crystal Wyvern, as I find this is one of those creatures where I really find it is just so overpowered for the taming method. Taming a Crystal Wyvern is ridiculously easy, and way easier in my opinion than just a regular Wyvern. You need to be level 60, then simply knock out Crystal Wyvern and that primal crystal will be obtained. Then find a very specific spot on the back of it. It's kind of just between the head and the wings, sort of just on the body. There's a sort of spot where you can nestle there, and as it flies around, just click E whenever it wants that primal crystal and you get yourself a Crystal Wyvern. I love their elemental abilities. My favourite one is the Blood Crystal Wyvern. The Emerald Crystal Wyvern is also quite a popular one among many. This is the Tropical Crystal Wyvern because I just think it looks better for the B-roll, but I find their elemental abilities are just more useful than the general Wyvern ones, and they also are just really lovely creatures to use and really easy to tame. In number 7 we have got the Shadow Mane, and this is just one of those creatures where it's like it is really innovated in the space, coming out in Gen 2 of course. It has been around for a fair few years now, 2 or 3. I think it's 3 now, considering I'm pretty sure Gen 2 is 2021. Hopefully I got that right. My brain can't really think back that many years at the moment because it's in a little bit of a fog in 2024 mode. But either way, this creature is just so packed full of abilities. It is insane. It can jump to incredible heights. It has the hydration buff. It has the pack buff. It can go invisible when there's the presence of both the male and the female, and they also do really work very well in the water. Again, that hydration buff is playing a huge part in that, but they are just great swimmers too, which can't be said about some other creatures which you'll find on the list. They really are versatile in terms of all things mobility. They are great damage dealing mounts and great for bosses, and great innovators in the small carnivore space. Coming up next we have got the Argentavis, and it really does need to be here for me. The RG has been around ever since the beginning, and it's gone through obviously some TLC with a better model upgrade, and I think some new abilities added. Actually, I know some new abilities added, and it really does just carry in terms of a flyer. While not the fastest out there, it has 50% weight reduction on things like metal, crystal and obsidian, with the added bonus of its saddle acting as a portable smithy, which can't be said about quite a lot of other creatures just in the game. The Castivoides is a good example of another creature utilising this. They can also pick up a wealth of creatures like the Dodic and the Anki, which can help you to gather all things like those resources like I mentioned, metal, crystal, obsidian, but then you can get stone and flint and wood and thatch. Fiber you're not going to be getting on this thing, but really you can get a theory to do that, and that is going to be very effective. They can also carry a secondary creature in their beak too if you want to take your dodo for a little sky flight. And they are very, very effective in regenerating quickly too, as if you simply kill something and eat the dead body, or just simply eat a corpse of a creature, you're going to have a nice regen buff, which is going to carry you. In number 5, we have got the Baryonyx, and this is the best cavern creature really in my eyes, especially considering the time at which you're going to be getting this creature. Spawning in the swamp biome on the island, and swamp biomes on just other maps in general, and the whole bog biome on Gen 1 of course. These are really effective caving mounts. Their size is perfect, that they can pretty much slip into any sort of cave that you'd be wanting to go into. Their high damage and high health with great mobility allows them to go into these caves and fight against all of the combatants very effectively, and it really does great in this regard. They're great for underwater caving too, due to their spin attack, which in some creatures up to the size of a megalodon. They can also jump too, so I guess now you can go Super Mario Galaxy style. But yeah, they really are a favourite of mine. I love these creatures, and for the level you get in them at, and for the ease of taming, just a very basic knockouts, you really can't get anything too much better than one of these things. Coming up next, we have got the Desmodus, and the Sanguine Elixir that this thing offers is just such a valuable resource in my opinion. I simply had to put it on the most fantastic Ark creatures list. Also, with its nice neat glide ability, it is a very effective flyer. Obviously the Sanguine Elixir is going to give you 30% of your tames like that with click of a button. There are also blood bag farms too, and for the next creature on the list, that is going to be a very huge help, or just a big helping hand in a way. They're great for PvP too, with the ability to pick players off mounts with relative ease, especially seeing that glide ability again. You can get quite a lot of speed going with these things. On top of that, they can grapple onto any kind of wall or vertical surface, or even ceilings like the Tapijara, which you'll find on Ark as well, although this is the fast period creature. The tame method is the same as the next creature on the list, I'll talk about it then. But yeah, really fantastic creature, spawns on Fjorda, and it is definitely innovated in the space. And in number 3, like you could probably guess, we have got the Bloodstalker. This is my all-time favourite, just general travelling mount. Really, the next creature on the list is, it just has got a slight edge, but for underwater travel this is really my go-to, and for general travel as well, I really do like it, although the other creature just slightly surpasses it. But for all of the other underwater travel, which I'm doing a surprising amount of at the moment, it's actually a little bit weird for me to be doing that, but it's definitely satisfying those needs. You tame it by getting blood bags, and you can feed it something like a moss chops first to get that effectiveness up to 100%, which, you know, to be honest, it's relatively easy to do if you just have the basic prep done. With the Desmodus as well, you can farm those blood bags and get a Bloodstalker easily. The reason why they're so good at underwater travel is they're very fast and just generally mobile in a given underwater environment, and you can easily take them out of the water too, and you're essentially just like Spider-Man. They can glide along the top of the water too, and you can see the aggros of all the creatures. In a low visibility environment like the ocean, that is really, really useful in my opinion. Let's get on to the next creature on the list then, shall we? Coming in at number 2, we have got the Maywing, and this really is the epitome of just general travelling mounts. You really can't get much better than this thing, especially in terms of the level you're getting this thing at. Its saddle was unlocked at level 18, but I usually get it in my mid-20s because some trank arrows are something which I use, because I just go for the highest level one I can find first, get a couple of signs, and then just trank it out. That's how, again, unlocked to level 18. You can craft it, it's ridiculously cheap, and then you've got a really high level one straight off the bat. You don't need to sort of stagger it in a way just because of how easy they are to trap and actually tame. Then there's a little bit of learning curve in actually learning how to fly one of these things, but once you have done that, you really aren't going to struggle whatsoever at getting these things around the place, and they travel with such speed that there really is nothing better out there. They act as a portable feeding trough too, with that slight disturbing animation you'll see in a little bit. Still can't really get over it, but you know, I guess it's there. You can carry 4 babies as well in its saddle too, and even steal enemy baby creatures with this ability. They're pretty decent swimmers as well, not quite as good as the Bloodstalker, and they can actually skim along top of the water too. Again, like the Bloodstalker, but they're not quite as good as a swimmer. And they can gather berries too, actually. It's a nice, neat ability they have. And in number 1, we've got the Deinonychus, and I know this really does seem to very often top my lists, but I really do need to emphasize that I love this creature, and I think it's the most fantastic one out there with its very fast mobility, the fact that it takes no fall damage, and its wall climbing skills. It is great in the aspect of mobility. Not a great swimmer, but you know, for everything else, this does all of the job that I need it to do, apart from flying, but you know, hey ho. They deal bleed damage to bosses, which only it does, and if you've got the pack buff on top of this as well, you can do some serious damage. And especially considering, again, you can do this to bosses, you can shred through them with absolute ease and have no worries or issues with them. It is just such a great creature for defeating bosses. I really can't emphasize enough how good it is for that job. And if you get some health mutations, you can do some of the longer ones as well. Again, when you're traveling, they take no fall damage, which is just such a nice, neat thing. It's small, but it really does add a lot of fluidity into your travel, as you don't have to worry about quickly dismounting before you hit the ground, because you realise you've jumped off something a bit too high and you don't really want to be taking any fall damage, because the reality is you're taking no fall damage when you're on one of these things. So if you haven't already, definitely consider one of these things. They're very easy to tame, in my opinion. Steal the eggs from the chalk cliffs biome and then raise it as your own, of course. Choose whichever level you really want to go for at the start. You can kind of go for a mid-range level or a high-range level. It doesn't really matter. Just get one and you're going to love these things, trust me. But anyway, that is the end of today's video. I really hope that you all did enjoy, as I definitely did enjoy making this one. As always, comment down below what is the most fantastic Ark Tame to you. And if you did disagree with this list, then put your 10 in the comments below. And I'll see you all later.